How's it going, agents? This is Carl Silva with Silva Property Group, and I want to jump into Lightroom right now and show you how I edit some basic real estate photos. So let me share my screen here with you. Go into Lightroom. Here we go. So this is a picture of the front of the house. I can already tell just visually that there's a little bit of a slant to it. The driveway made it a little bit difficult since the driveway is kind of at a different slant than the actual slab is. So I'm just visually going to try to balance it out the best that I can, given those two different levels of the foundation and the driveway. So if I am outside of the box here, I can rotate the image like this as part of crop mode, just here to the right. So once I'm in crop mode, I can basically use all these guidelines to get a clearer picture of where straight is. And to me, on the larger image here on the main screen, it looks fairly straight. The lines aren't matching up. These lines here don't seem to match up with the space between the bottom of the siding here, bottom of the siding here. You see there's maybe about a foot here. Here, there's maybe a foot and a half. So it doesn't look completely straight, but if I'm looking at the thumbnail over here, as if I'm looking further away from it, which is ideally what we want to do instead of being so up close, it looks straight. It looks pretty straight to me. And what I'm looking at is kind of the spacing here along the top of the frame. Of course, the line going through the center here, it looks like that center line is fairly level. And the spacing here, it looks like there's as much space here as there is here, if not just a little slight variance. So that looks good as far as cropping. So now if you go into this top one, which is going to be your edit panel, you have a lot of options for how to change the lighting of the images. So what we want in our photos, in our photography, is for something that's very clean, that looks bright, and it imparts maybe good things to come, which darkness does not, which shadows do not. So we want things nice, bright, and clear. So this is a pretty basic photo of a front of a house that was taken, and it was a very cloudy day, so we need to brighten it up quite a bit, and also we want to sharpen it up and just make it a little bit more clean looking. So every photo is going to be different, but for example, I'll show you some of the things that I go through to get this photo looking as close as possible to what we really want it, if not all the way there. So let's say for exposure, I'm going to go ahead and increase exposure by about 50. And as I'm increasing it, I want to see where that light is on the way up and a little bit past. So I feel like one might be too bright. At about 0.5, we're back to 0. At about there, yeah, it's about 0.5. About there is where I would want it, because we have other settings to play with. I think that gives it more of a natural brightness. This is a little bit too much all around. So if I click this, I can just put that in automatically. If say you have a system of numbers that you use automatically, you just plug those right in instead of messing with these slider bars here. All right, so as far as contrast goes, let's say I'm going to increase the contrast a little bit. And what that's going to do is it's going to change the darks and the lights a little bit and bring out a little bit more of the image, in my opinion. So I think going up and down and trying to find a sweet spot, I think 15, around 15 or so is good for me. And once I drop that there, I'm going to show you, we've messed around a little bit with exposure and contrast, which has also affected shadows. And so you can see here the darker spots where it's having to compensate for the shadow being caused by this awning. There's a little bit of noise there. So we'll clean that up a little bit later, but but that's something just to keep in mind, that in your shadows, when you start messing with light, you could start getting some noise in those shadows. It just depends on how great your camera is. We have a very decent camera. It works for our purposes and our needs. We think it takes beautiful pictures of our clients' homes, but there are cameras and lenses that are thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars more that are going to produce super, super high-end photos. We just aren't there yet. And these videos are meant for people who also aren't there yet and trying to figure out how to make it work with the budget they've got. So let's move on to shadows, because the highlights seem like they're fine where they're at. For my shadows, once I go up and down, you can start seeing what's happening, where it's brightening up. A lot of the foliage, a lot of the grass is what we're seeing change colors. A lot of that has to do with the house being gray. So really it's just becoming a brighter gray and it's not as noticeable. But notice the most important thing is that that door is becoming more blue. And as long as you don't add too much noise to the area there underneath that front porch, you'll be fine. So let's add a little bit of blue there and residually add a little bit of green to the foliage. Let's say 50. 50 is about where I want it, just to bring the color out in the foliage and the door. Whites and blacks, I'm not going to mess with. I think the color is pretty fine. And the trimming, the white trimming is white enough. Otherwise, it's just going to start to make things look a little bit unnatural and too bright. What I'm finding here is that the concrete looks a little bit better when it's brighter. So as a test, I'm just going to play around. Let's leave that white at 80 where I think the driveway looks best at, but the house is too bright. And let's bring that exposure back down and see if it still looks the way we want it to. Yep, I'd say it does. I'd say it does. So net positive would be to increase the whites in this particular case to really make that driveway shine, and the house is still coming out fairly bright, which is what we want. All right, so let's move on to color, the color section of the editing panel. Here, I'm going to increase the vibrance a little bit. That's going to just make things pop a little bit more. Let's go to about 15. You can see the difference here. Not much change, except that it is just bringing the color out a little bit more in that door. The fence line, the foliage, all that good stuff. All right, so now we're going to go down into the color mixer, and keep in mind, sometimes if you haven't used this before or you've accidentally closed it, you're going to have to open this color mixer back up. And you may have to do that with a number of these other panels, light, color. All right, so let's go back into color mixer. And here I'm going to increase the luminance just a little bit, see what that does, and see if that makes me feel a little bit better about, yeah. You know, I think it washes out the grass quite a bit, but overall, you know, the house is the focal point, and that's what I'd like to see look the best. And I think it looks better with a little bit of a higher luminosity. All right, let's see what else we got. Let's go down into the detail panel. And because we've messed with some of the lighting, we may have also lost some of the sharpness. The camera that you're using may also cause you to lose some of the sharpness. I shot in HDR mode, which compiles multiple exposures together. Sometimes that can cause a little bit of blurring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase sharpening by about 50, just see where that's at. And what I'm really looking at is a lot of these lines in the siding, the hardy board here. I want to look at the trimming on the house and just see how that sharpens it up. It does seem like it's more blended together when it's down to 0. It doesn't seem like it's making much of a difference though, unless I go all the way up to about 100, but that seems like it's too much. So I would feel most comfortable keeping it at around 50, knowing that it is doing a little bit something, but it's not so much that it's just over apparent. All right, and now I want to, let's decrease the noise a little bit, especially because of what we have going on that doorway. Keep in mind though, this is also flattening or blurring rather the sharpening that we've just put in. So a lot of times when you go down here, you may want to do the noise reduction first just to get the noise out from those shadowy spots, say at 30. And once you've got the noise reduction down in the spots that you want, play with the sharpening tool. And now with it being at 0, things are a little bit more blurry because of the noise reduction. Now you can increase the sharpening just to counter that, and that won't affect that noise that you just fixed with the noise reduction. So I think that looks pretty good. That looks like a great main photo. I may just crop, just little things like that. Nothing as far as color editing, things like that. Maybe bring this to that side of that white trim there, since this is a wide angle lens, and that's that trim, the siding trim, the corner trim right there looks like it's at quite a bit of an angle. So it's just kind of odd. Same thing with these lines over here. Those look a little odd. However, this there kind of balances out the image on both sides, and still shows as much as we want, as we need to. So I hit return, and that's essentially my image. I know that our MLS is going to want to make this, a little bit more of this shape. So I'm going to cut out the bottom portion of the driveway there. Enter. And now that I've hit enter, I can see that it still has a little bit of a crook to it. I just want to go a little bit this way. See how that looks to me. That's it. All right, guys, so I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it really helps you guys in taking your photos and knowing what to do with them once you are at your computer. This can be done with any camera. This can be done with a great camera. This can be done with just a basic camera. This can be done with your phone video footage, your phone video photo footage, excuse me. Just drop it into Lightroom, mess around with the settings, get a feel for them, read into them, research what they're doing for your photo. And you can put as much editing and as much time as you want into these photos. But the idea is to simplify your life, get these photos out as soon as possible so you can get on to the next thing in your business. I could do a number of other things to this photo between Lightroom and Photoshop, but I like to keep things simple and natural. You see what you get. However, I do want to polish things up a little bit. It's kind of like power washing the photo. So again, I hope you guys found value in this and it helps you guys out. If you have any questions or have any requests for a video you'd like to see so that you can learn a little bit more about marketing for your real estate business, give me a call or leave a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Good luck out there. Bye.